Notes from Hillary Clinton's meeting with the FBI are being given to a congressional committee to review. According to the Bureau, the material from their July meeting contains classified and other sensitive contents. With its delivery comes a warning, quote, that the expectation is it won't be disseminated or disclosed without FBI concurrence. Many Democrats are rightly skeptical that information will remain secure. Among them, the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Schiff of California. Congressman, one person said, why don't you go ahead and just throw them on the sidewalks outside the congressional buildings, and it will save time because they're going to end up on the street anyway.
Well, I think, unfortunately, that's exactly right. And the history of documents like this has been leaked almost immediately upon receipt by Congress. And I'd be very surprised if that was different here. And the broader concern, frankly, is what this will mean to Department of Justice investigations and people's willingness to cooperate in the future. I also have to say that it opens a Pandora's box of requests from Congress now. Should, for example, the Financial Services Committee demand the closed investigative files of any Wall Street executives not indicted after the meltdown, don't we have equally as much right to those files as we do to these in the public interest? You can list probably easily a dozen or dozens of closed cases that Congress would have a legitimate interest if this is now the precedent. And that concerns me greatly because I think it will deter people from cooperating in Department of Justice investigations if they know they're going to become public and part of political fodder.
Congressman, I totally agree with you. I think this is one of the most horrible precedents I've seen in a long time. I don't understand why the FBI agreed to send the material over. Not deterring cooperation, but people's privacy, people's rights to not have accusations made against them if they've not been indicted. Why did the FBI do this?
Well, I think that the director made the decision, and I support him in this decision, to speak publicly about the closure of the case when he did so a couple months ago. And then he testified, in fact, in great detail about that. It wasn't without reservation that I supported that, but I felt that the seminal public interest in a case involving the likely nominee or nominee of one of the parties justified it in these circumstances. But to go further than that and release investigative files and witness interviews and other documents, that seems to me unjustified and unwise. And I think it's a decision and a precedent the Justice Department will rue that it has set, because I don't see a limiting principle here. And so whenever you have a party in the majority in Congress now and someone from the other party under investigation, that investigation is ultimately declined, they're going to demand the same kind of access that we saw here.
Congressman, it's Katty Kay here. Can I switch to Trump and to the intelligence briefing that he's going to be getting later today? As somebody who sits on the House Intelligence Committee, do you have any insight for us on the expanse of that briefing? The kind of thing do you think that Mr. Trump might be party to at the end of it?
Well, I'll tell you, I think what he's going to get is a very top-line briefing that will set the context for what the national security challenges are that face the country, but won't go into anything that might reveal a source of information, a method of how we got the information, nothing of that level of specificity, both because there will be a real sensitivity about the risk of disclosure of those sources and methods, but also because it's really not necessary to give the kind of briefing that would frankly be of any value to that particular candidate. So I think it will be very top line. I think it will frankly go not much beyond what you would find on MSNBC, CNN, or Fox any day of the week turn in to hear a national security discussion. In fact, many of the classified briefings for the full House of Representatives have the same character, where we will leave the briefing and get more detail watching your show than we did during the classified briefing. I think this will be even more top level than what the 435 members of the House get.
Yeah, you know, we've done these national security briefings since the days of Harry Truman. That's when it was instituted, that candidates, once they got the nomination, got these briefings. But when you're bringing in people like, Michael Flynn and others who have been very close to Russian television, at dinners with Putin, do you think that there has to be some change, not just saying, okay, it'll only be top line this time, but we'll have to institutionalize some change?
Well, I don't know that we can institutionalize this. I do think we have to leave the President and the Director of National Intelligence some discretion, and I think they'll exercise it wisely and prudently. But you're right. It gives me a lot of heartburn that a candidate that is this close, at least ideologically, to Putin, that has several senior advisors very close to the Kremlin in different ways, that we would share any information about Russia. Particularly, can you imagine if the topic of Russian cyber efforts came up? I would feel very uncomfortable getting into that with a candidate with this kind of background.
Well, yeah, and especially what's happening now in Iran. It is, it's got to cause a lot of concerns. All right. Thank you so much, Ranking Member of the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Adam Schiff. Greatly appreciate it.